Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode here in Awakening Dragons. Today I have Josh with me, and I'm just going to introduce him for everyone. Josh Little is a student of consciousness, galactic astrologer, healing facilitator, and quantum intuitive guide. Josh activates the song of the soul within those wanting to embody more of their consciousness. And I love that. I love that because I'm all about the song and that expression and embodiment. So thank you so much for being here, Josh. How are you today?
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm doing well, thank you. I'm really excited to just share what feels present and to just be of service to you and just share what's going on with your galactic astrology chart, and what's coming through from your consciousness and your akashic record and wants to be activated for you. So this is my play and my work,
I know.
which is
And I love just talking about this stuff because that's the play, right? That's the funness of it. And I
Mhm.
guess, in our interactions, it's been interesting as we had said we would meet over a month ago, right? And it didn't happen because of energies, things that were happening. You couldn't get access to my Akashic records. So maybe talk a little bit about just timing and what's happening on a more collective level.
Yeah, I find this with my work in general. Sometimes when, clients come in and ask for a reading, it's like, yep, whenever they booked, it's just like ready to go. They've been ready.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, this work, it goes really deep. The galactic astrology, you're looking at the stars, you're looking at the kind of the higher consciousness of the soul and bringing this into awareness and bringing this into more conscious awareness. There's a real activation that happens, and there's a universal wisdom that goes way beyond any of our understanding, um, at play. And sometimes we're not ready for the deep activation that quantum soul guidance and galactic astrology provides for people. So,
Mm.
sometimes I have to say to clients, or, in this case, just this podcast interview, I'm sorry, it's like my guides are saying it's not the right time. The relevant information that I'm here to bring you, because that's the thing as well. We've all
Mm.
got unique gifts and we've all got
That's
unique
right.
like soul blueprints where I have something to share with you based on the reflection that you are with me, or
Yes.
um, or just like some of the gifts that I have that can bring something online and bring things into alignment for you, that someone else perhaps isn't meant to do. And I think that's the thing. We kind of have these kind of agreements or contracts to support each other and to awaken one another and to bring more of this truth online. So yeah, back when, I remember you reaching out to the Galactic Astrology community, like, does anyone want to come on my podcast and talk and do like a mini reading? And I was like,
Mm.
oh, this sounds so fun. And I felt like a yes,
Yeah.
an absolute yes. But then it was just like, it did not want to happen back in early December. So yeah, I think you reached out about a week ago, and I was like, oh yeah, it feels really good. And I could feel this heart
Mm.
opening. It was almost like the information that wanted to come through for this session was just like immediately streaming in, and I was just like, whoa, I've not even said a prayer or connected to her energy or anything. It was just like your guides are just like, it's time. So you really know when it is time. And it's interesting, the focus points that I feel want to be shared with you. They definitely have some resonance with some um, like collective transits that are happening at the moment. So there's
Mm.
also something in it for, many within this
Yeah.
collective. So yeah.
And that's part of the intention of, I guess, this podcast is I say it's my hobby podcast, right? Because I just love going into these topics and there's just something very down to earth, very authentic, very embodied when we share about our experiences. And when you see people that engage and, talk about these things, normalizing it as well. Um, and yeah, like everything, I think this message, again, the wisdoms that you'll bring through, and also for anyone listening, to really invite them to trust in their process, right? As much as we are all seekers of information, we are all here to learn about ourselves, our true self. There really is this divine timing and very masterful plan that your own, soul and spirit has probably orchestrated. So I've really had to learn to trust in that flow,
Mhm.
and especially around all things with linear time, like having to surrender to, no, I'm not going to commit to doing one podcast a week or whatever. Like there's so many people that suggest some regularity and some specific timing. And I'm like, I just want to do it when the energy is there with whoever I want to do it with. So it's been a learning process and experiential way of coming into embodiment. So thank you
Mhm.
for listening to the divine and the guides, and being here. So what any transits in particular that you want to mention, or what is going on for the collective now? What did we move? What energies have we moved into?
Well, I'm not sure when this is going to be released, but last weekend, around the 20th of January, was when Pluto moved into Aquarius again. This time it's pretty much staying there, apart from a couple of months towards the end of the year. But we're pretty much in this kind of Pluto in Aquarius energy now for the long haul for about 20 years. So
Right.
that has just happened. And the first, 0 degrees um, of Pluto and Aquarius has certain galactic alignments. It has Altair, the alpha star from Aquila, in conjunction there. And it also has a trine to some of the Pleiadian stars and a sextile to the Alpha Centuri. And I
Hmm.
remember when we first talked about potentially doing this, you were like, I love this whole galactic astrology thing, but how do we make this really practical? How do we embody this? I want to, I like a grounded approach as well. So you were
That's
wanting
right.
to talk more about that. And so I was immediately drawn to your Chiron in Taurus,
Hmm.
which is in the 10th house, and it has a conjunction to Pleiades, Electra,
That's right.
Maya, and Alcyone. And it has an opposition there as well to Alpha Centauri in the Centaurus constellation. So I could see, yeah, we just Pluto at Aquarius. The sun was also moving into Aquarius at the same time last weekend, with this
Hmm.
really coming online. And it's obviously in your chart as well, in Chiron in Taurus. So Chiron is known as the Centaur. It's a like a minor planet or asteroid that's
Hmm.
further out. It's a long time to travel. And obviously you have an opposition to Alpha Centauri, which is the Centaurus constellation. So you have the Centaur in the Centaur kind of aligning together. However, there is an opposition, so there is like a real ability for just you coming into what Chiron is, which is the masterful healer. And
Hmm.
Chiron is a masterful healer because of the wound that he's gone through, where he heals himself and so becomes a healer of others based on his own journey. And
That's right.
yeah, with Taurus here, it's usually seen as like the wound of neglect, loss, lack. Obviously, Taurus is connected to security. So there's, usually a journey of um, just finding more resource within yourself and really like resourcing yourself, meeting your needs and becoming whole, becoming the fullness of your fragment of source as well, which is also what Pluto in Aquarius is like asking us to do at this time as well, on more of a collective level. Aquarius wants to be this unique, original kind of fragment of the whole, yet part of a collective. And so
Mm.
there, I just see like there's this connection between the two as you're really kind of just bringing all of these parts of you back home so that you're no longer in this lack or this loss of self or this neglect. Because I think like the main mantra that wants to come through here is, I am enough.
Yes,
I
yes.
am
That's a very,
everything.
very, very succinct way of summarizing the wound. And I've known that for a long time. It's always I'm not enough, I'm not enough. That's, the lie or the wound I tell myself. So would you say that this Pluto alignment kind of highlights what's going on in my chart? Like it's really, yeah, emphasizing that energy that's present?
Yeah, so it's emphasizing specifically this Pleiadian and Centaurus kind of story that's coming
Mm,
up in Chiron and Taurus. So on a galactic level, you have these stars kind of showing a story. And when I ask in the Akashic records, I'm like, okay, so what is this about? And given that I've also looked into other people's channelings around the Pleiades and around their journey, the
mm,
Pleiadian, and also what I was sensing and things that I've tuned into in the past, because this is a story that I've actually been tuning into for kind of years, kind of fragment by
mm.
fragment, on and off. Um, and it's something that's quite present in my draconic chart, which is a deeper
Yeah.
look into my nodal axis and my past lives. So it's something that feels really resonant. But what I was seeing is that as a Pleiadian, as a soul, you chose to incarnate into the Pleiades. Um, the Pleiadians are excited, they're innocent, they love the positive polarity within source, sometimes
Mm,
completely denying the negative. They they're very gracious. They have like a gracious way about them, and a kind of just like a very feminine, creative, flowy way of doing life. If you kind of think about it in more of an Earth-like way, you kind of look at some of the Scandinavian kind of countries,
yeah.
or you look at like Lord of the Rings and the elves and the way that they're represented. There's like a similar kind of energy to that there, and the Pleiadians they've been looking after Earth for quite a long time. And I see that
Mm,
as a Pleiadian, you've had quite a connection to Earth and you've wanted to come and incarnate here with a lot of the Pleiadian DNA and bring it into the body. But what I'm seeing within Alpha Centauri is, so Alpha Centauri from an astronomy kind of level is a three star system. So you've got Alpha Centauri, you've got Ptolemy, and then you've got Proxima Centauri A. And Proxima Centauri A has a planet in orbit around it, which is an
mm-hmm,
exoplanet. It was found in 2016, in early 2016. And they say it's an exoplanet and it could be potential for having life on it. So, anyway, through the records, what I was seeing is the Pleiadians could see what was going on this, Alpha Proxima Centauri B, this planet. And what I was seeing was that there was a whole kind of Earth-like society with quite evolved technology. So it was more evolved than what we have it at the moment. They had a lot of weapons, they had a lot of nuclear stuff going on. And there were a lot of people, not a lot, there was like a small minority who had a lot of power over the
yeah.
collective there. The Pleiadians, wanted to help out, wanted to do something. And they saw that, in the past, the Vegans and other races had come to Earth and shown themselves as extraterrestrials, and it had
Mm,
been relatively successful. However, with Proxima Centauri B, what seemed to happen was when they presented themselves and tried to bring this new higher consciousness to the planet in order to try and solve some of the issues around, a small minority having a lot of power over the whole, and, all this kind of evolution of technology that was going wrong from their perspective, they showed up, and then the people in power
Yeah.
did not like it. And what
Yeah.
it said in Lissa Royal Holt's channelings is that the Pleiadians caused the planet to be destroyed. And what I was seeing is that this planet then started being blown up because these
Oh
power.
gosh, another story of planets being blown up. Oh my
Yeah,
God, other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
A lot
So
Lyrian energy as well.
yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
so it's but then this caused a lot of guilt for the Pleiadians. What I was seeing as well is that the Pleiadians, as they were seeing that there was all this kind of war breaking out and these like nuclear things kind of going off, um, they were bringing these kind of humans of sorts from Proxima Centauri B to other planets in other star systems to try and save them, but they
mhm.
didn't save as many as they'd hoped. So this created a lot of guilt in regards to the Pleiadian consciousness, which still kind of shows up a lot today. And I think when you have like this much guilt and this much of a kind of savior complex, sometimes you can think, okay, I'm just going to give them this part of myself so that they can
Yeah.
heal. So this is kind of what is showing up as you being in lack of self based on this whole situation. The
Mm,
guilt, maybe unconscious, has caused like lots of other people to have your consciousness. And instead of kind of seeing the wisdom in the bigger picture, which I've not really been shown so much, but I know that sometimes, we need to allow the shadow to just be. And sometimes, it's like the Pleiadians have so much like excitement and they
yeah.
just want to go and help. And it's, and sometimes things aren't very well thought through within that kind of Pleiadian energy. So it's
Mm,
like, it's kind of like sitting back, looking at the situation. What are the potentials here, which the Pleiadians didn't seem
yeah.
to have access to, like some of the higher kind of psychic wisdom, potential timelines of things.
Yeah.
And they couldn't see that this potential was going to happen. So, in a wisdom perspective, I guess, for your growth, it's like, it's bringing your soul into a place where it wants to journey more to look things through more thoughtfully, to look at the bigger picture, to look at the various timelines in place, and to
Mm,
engage with the wisdom of the universe and that kind of higher perspective so that you can move into things just from a larger awareness to ensure that the best thing is going to happen for the whole
yeah.
and for you. Because I think, looking at your chart in general, you have a lot of this kind of Aries energy, but Aries in the
Yeah.
ninth house for you is intercepted. So it means that it's something that you're kind of going to grow into over time. And Aries wants to look after me. Aries is I
Mm,
am. Aries is making sure that, I've got everything that I need. And that's vital. And that's part of the balance. Making sure that I've got everything that I need so that I can show up and be of service. And ninth house, be the teacher that you're here to be for everyone else. So it's
yeah.
like I can see that your soul since then has gone, right, okay, I need to kind of stop overdoing it with giving, service to others, putting myself in these really dangerous situations, causing things that
Mm,
it doesn't end up well. Um, and there's many things to it. But I think really what wants to happen is more of a balance of you just coming home to you and
Yeah.
really, it's with Taurus as well, in Chiron, there's always a connection to the relationship with the physical body as well. And
Yes.
and so it's like a real journey of embracing the physical realm,
Yeah.
embracing the materialist, ways of thinking and being. Um, yeah, so those are kind of
Well, there's a
some.
lot. There's a lot in this Palladian story, and I just had to write some notes so I can have time to reflect. But I feel when you started with that story of, that guilt, I feel like, oh, that kind of, well, the whole story about, the few that are in power and, needing some saving. It's like, oh, well, does that reflect the situation we are in right now on Earth? Just a broad question. And then, secondly, on a very personal level, this kind of savior thing, I have definitely seen it in my family situation, wanting to save, wanting to, oh, it's that innocence of, but here's the solution. Here's, what you can do. And feeling extremely guilty for living far from home, extremely guilty for not having been there, extremely guilty for not being able to solve, problems. And so that higher wisdom perspective that you're saying that, I need to embody more of, I can see over the years the layering of releasing that guilt and releasing the over responsibility has also evolved in its dimensions. So previously it was, oh, it's not my responsibility. Okay, release. But as we go deeper into understanding our soul, and now, let's say looking at a very galactic level, galactic wound, it's so deep. Understand that it's not just about handing the responsibilities back to people, but it's like it was such an archetypal energy that comes from, very far. And I think that's what is very interesting about galactic astrology and getting that deeper insight from a soul level. We have chosen these wounds and these energies to learn our earth lessons and embodiment. So I definitely see that evolution in that guilt energy and how it's like this overextension. Okay, I'll just do that for free. Okay, I'll just give a little bit more here. Whereas now it's more of that reflection of, yeah, as long as my cup is full and it feels it's overfilling and, I can give from that space, I will. And that's been a real lesson. And I've always wondered why I felt so strongly with the Palladian energy, even though I think it only, well, when I ran the chart, I think I only see it in Chiron. I don't really see it elsewhere. But yet they were the first constellation or energy that I feel really connected to. In fact, I have the Pleiades tattooed here. I think actually I love the books by Barbara. I don't know, like Bringers of the Dawn. I remember when I first listened to that, I was like, yes, yes. Everything is just so yes. So that's a very interesting reason of probably why that energy is so pervasive in the chart. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
coming home to the body, like I've been struggling in my journey right now to just be in the body, not wanting to do as much exercise or training because it brings things up, and that sensitivity that I have in the field, now that I'm whatever more and more connected and I do more qigong and I feel more in my body, it's like I might do a half hour of something and it's like, whoa, like everything comes up. So it's embracing with softness and with compassion of what this body is holding still.
That's the thing as well, because it's in the 10th house. Obviously, there's some real gifts here, in regards to the work that you're here to offer. With Pleiadians, they have an amazing gift of communicating and connecting as well. And
Mm.
I see you as, you have so much Andromeda. I would say it's the most active constellation in your chart. And um, I forgot where I was going. Maybe I'm not meant to go there yet, so I'm just gonna stay
I
with the
think the
Pleiadians.
Palladians are not done. What I got was not, it's
Yeah,
not done with the
yeah,
whatever you're talking
exactly.
about the Palladians.
Yeah, so I think with Pleiadians, they've You have this ability to really connect and be very versatile and adaptable, to like
Mm,
really just connect with all kinds of different people and find a way of connecting them and connecting the whole. Like I see you as being like a kind of super connector within the field and being
yeah.
able to kind of bridge gaps between people. There's also something here with the 10th house. It's obviously connected to Capricorn, to Saturn, to the paternal archetype. So, you know, you're
Mm,
talking about the influence of family. There can be a connection with this wound in regards to the paternal ancestors and to that
yeah.
DNA that can be activated through that. So, perhaps some of the paternal ancestors were souls of people who were in this experience in Proxima Centauri B.
Mm,
And I think some of the wisdom that wants to come through is, you know, slavery systems built on all this kind of hierarchy and ego. There's an opportunity for those who are in the position of being like the slave to the system, of really growing into more of this kind of Aquarian nature, you know, Uranus nature, where they become these like empowered, rebellious, revolutionary kind of, you know, it's
mm,
more of the dragon energy will really want to kind of come to the surface and
mm,
revolt against, which allows for collectives to become more part of the whole and to become more one together, to really revolutionize things so that injustices aren't in place anymore. So it's kind of seeing that kind of lens of wisdom that was lacking from the Pleiadian perspective, that no, just hold on. When things get really bad, you know, those humans or those kind of beings who are there in this slavery system, they will have it in them to really want to find justice, and
mm.
to really kind of come together to make a change, to grow. There's, you know, more worthiness. There's that can come online through that. There's more confidence that can come online through the experience, because, you know, we know that the shadow will always lead to light. And it's through the shadow and through the illusion that we grow into more
Yeah.
of the truth, into more of the light, into more of um, you know, what that experience is leading to as it moves into higher consciousness.
I can certainly see the again the relation into what's been happening maybe for the last, few years.
Mm,
The parts of us that are enslaved to whatever system we might think, and
mhm,
it's sparking a lot of activation in people now, whether they relate to the Andromedans or feel it's galactic or just very human and third dimension. I
mhm,
see a lot of that energy rising, the empowerment, the reclamation of power, the sovereignty, right? Like people using those words more and more. It's not just ascension, okay? Like even if people are not on this path per se, there is this revolutionary energy of whatever system is in place and the powers that be is not working anymore. So having that come online in the collective way. And I find that interesting. You're linking that to the dragon energy, right? Like I kind of see it archetypally as the typical things that dragons might be known for. And maybe it's magic, it's transformation, it's power, it's the mystic realms. But oh yeah, like linking it with the Aquarian and that revolutionary, like sovereignty thing. It's amazing since obviously dragons have been very present and leading the way. They're really leading the way.
mm,
You mentioned the paternal ancestry, and I find that also interesting. So at the same time that the dragon guides first appeared to me, it was in one of my year-long um, shamanic containers. I was working with a group of women. And so each of us journeyed for the main guides that were leading us that year for ourselves and our personal journeys. And I had three. So one was dragon, and it was blue star dragon that came. It was the
mm,
first of the dragon guides. The second was really a personal guide for self. And actually, I still haven't worked with it very, very much, but it was the white stag. And that was about beauty or something, inner beauty, seeing self. And the
Mhm.
third, very interestingly, appeared as Father Sky. It actually appeared as Father Sky, and not with that name exactly, but in the Chinese or Taoist name for Father Sky, like Emperor of the Heavens kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. But I think it appeared in that Chinese lineage because my heritage is Chinese, and it was really telling me that it's about the masculine energy and it's about probably my human kind of ancestral line as well, because it showed it to me as the ultimate masculine energy and as the Chinese lineage as well. So there's a lot that needs to heal in that divine masculine lineage so that I can come more in balance with the two. Because in my personal life as well, yeah, it's a very challenging thing, that the masculine energy, how that has shown up in my childhood in all its unhealed ways, and how that's been in all the relationships and all the parts that are still a bit niggly to work with. So
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
And what's really interesting as well, I love where this is going, because you have a conjunction to Alpha Centauri, obviously from the Centaurus constellation, in your Mars in Scorpio in the fourth house. So Mars obviously being the archetypal masculine in Scorpio, this
Mm,
very intuitive, intense sign. And with the conjunction to Alpha Centauri here, it shows a kind of uh, a mastery. Usually, it's like a mastery of like having a lot of the positive um, expressions of that star. So, with the centaur, you are a healer. You've
mm,
already mastered certain types of healing and certain healing journeys. And it's with this kind of the Mars in Scorpio, which is very deep, it's very intense, it's very driven. It's like it is going
yes.
to do, with Mars there and Scorpio coming together, it is going to get what it wants. And it is
Mm.
going to heal this paternal lineage. Let's say this paternal
Yeah,
lineage.
yeah, yeah.
And it's interesting because you've got the fourth house here with Mars and Scorpio, and the fourth house is obviously representing more of the maternal aspects
Yes, that's
into
right.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the women in your family, it feels like some of the female ancestors could hold some of the keys to this healing, and your own masculine parts of your soul, which is very deep, which is very intense, which is very intuitive, which is has a way of kind of looking into the shadows, with Scorpio there, to kind of like see past things, to use wisdom, engage wisdom, to engage the phoenix and really
Mm,
burn things up and bring that transformational energy. Um, with Alpha Centauri, there's a connection to divination and a strong connection to the divine. There's, usually a very strong connection to astronomy and astrology as well, and connecting with the stars and connecting in with different energies to like
that's
really
right.
bring those energies in, which kind of bring the medicine that the paternal
Mm,
ancestors need in order to bring that
mm,
healing, so that that lack of security, which is what these people in positions of power usually have a lot of, that's where their greed comes from, that's where their abuse of power comes from. It's because they're deep in insecurity. But I see you as being someone who has security. Now, with Mars and Scorpio in the fourth house, you also have Perseus constellation in opposition with that. So it's Algol is the fixed star, and
mm,
Algol is the kind of the head, is the star within the head of Medusa that Perseus kind of
mm.
carries.
Yep.
It's known as the demon star. It's got all these kinds of names that give it a really bad rep. And, there are, within all of these different stars, within all of these, even Earth itself, I believe, has multiple dimensions within it. So there are always multiple dimensions happening simultaneously where we can incarnate into, different experiences. And yes, I do see that there are some darker dimensions within Perseus, where there's all kinds of black magic and stuff going on. But I see you as going on this journey as like a magician, like a wizard. It's like, how do I use my magic? How do I use my power to, bring more kind of positive healing? How do I use it from a very wise, because the wizard wants to become very wise within how he
Mm,
uses his magic,
yeah.
within how he uses his power. And one of the main themes that within the Algol star, that kind of collective go through is around stability. So it's really coming into a very stable, centered place, so that you can make decisions from wisdom, and you know when to bring that kind of power forward, that healing power that you have as a soul forward, because sometimes we can try and bring it in prematurely, which is part of our learning. And what we're on a journey to do is become one with the divine timing of the wisdom
Mm,
of the universe, so that we're not bringing a certain amount of like power, healing power, light power, manifestation and magic to the body, to the ancestors, which will bring the universal kind of wisdom out of alignment, because you're trying to heal something that's just not ready to be healed yet.
yes.
So, with Taurus as well, I found this cushion today, and it's the thing, and it moves very steadily, and it moves very slowly, and it moves within the way that the kind of collective of Earth moves, which is very slow. And
Yeah.
obviously, having a lot of Andromeda in your chart, I feel like I can talk about it now. Andromedans usually have a very fast kind of
I
nature to.
know.
It's like they can get things
That's
done like boom, like, and
well,
they
that's
want it.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I'll just talk
So.
about that for a sec. I can see that energy conflict in me. So I can feel what you're saying about, okay, you have to watch and wait for the right timing, right, for the wisdom. So not only for this podcast, but even in my earlier years of doing any kind of medicine work and healing, sometimes it's like, when you can just see it, like somebody walks into my awareness and I'm like, yep, I can see that. I can see the inner child. I can see whatever. And there's this urge to like, oh, and, like, would you like a reflection? So there was this overwhelming need to just share and to give. But now it's like this more, I'm going to just use the word embodied, but more centered way of, yes, I can see everything, but it doesn't mean it's ready to come up as well. And being in this small town where I am, it's also very interesting because there's not a lot of this kind of work. And I can see that sometimes when I share a bit of whatever sacred circle or whatever offering is there, there's a lot of opposition and not quite ready energy. And rather than defending self and saying, oh, this isn't what you think. Like they outright just called me, I'm deceiving people, you're a charlatan, you don't even know what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, when the medicine bottle is ready to be cracked open for these people, it will be. There isn't this urge to defend in a Mars-like, Aries-like way.
Mhm.
And that conflict with probably what you're saying is the Andromedan energy, or I wonder if it's also Pleiadian. Somebody, I think in Julia Belaz's comment, she said something about, the Pleiadians love watching videos at 2x. I'm like, yep, that's me. I can't stand doing everything slow. So I see that conflict of needing to be slow and steady. And yet
Mhm.
there's this part of me like, let's just get it done already. Like everything all at once now. Like, why wait? I can do it now.
Mm. And that's again part of this whole, you know, polarity game within this universe, where we get to just enjoy the balance of everything, and and kind of go, oh yeah, I have this part of me that likes things done efficiently, that likes things done, in a fast way, that can do things really fast. And it's kind of going, okay, I'm going to kind of step into this part of me and use that for this. However, for
Mm.
this, I really need to engage with this Taurian kind of slower, steadier, more earth, more grounded energy for this. And it's like, as we, live from a place of balance and centeredness within this whole game of polarity, we
Mm,
can choose, which side we want to play in. And, what I love about your chart is you've got Uranus and Neptune both in the fifth house. And, Uranus
mm,
is on this kind of hero's journey. Neptune's got this idealistic world. It's kind of the real journey of with the nodes of the kind of the soul, but probably from more of an ancient perspective. And I think something that you have the ability to do is just really see this whole experience as a game and as just
mm,
like, it's just play. It is just,
mm.
and I get to play with this aspect and with this part of my consciousness. And I get to play with this. And it's kind of bringing in that more mature wisdom um, to kind of decide, okay, inner child, let's play with this here and let's play with that here, because that suits things for the wisdom of the universe. Because you're a
Mm,
very, dragon, a lot of the higher octave dragon souls, especially, they're very powerful souls. And
mm.
with power comes a lot of responsibility. And, we can learn that the hard way.
I
Oh God.
know, right?
But so it's like it's really, it's how you use your power and how you connect in with the wisdom of the universe, and how you stay centered and you make the choices, yes, from a playful place, but also just from a very mature kind of place, which is something that I'm always learning, and I'm sure we all are. But
Mm,
yeah, I think those are just some things to kind of consider, especially with the whole Algol opposition and the kind of movement into more of that expression in its fullness.
yeah. And so, for those who are new to galactic astrology, or even if they're just starting out in astrology, right? And I feel you mentioned that there's that connection to astronomy and astrology and connection to the stars. Tara in Sanskrit is star. So it's always like, oh, it's star spirit. There really is that revelation and remembrance of from the stars. I've created the stars, which is fascinating. So you
Mm,
mentioned about bringing those energies in, which I feel that's what's happening with a lot of the toning and the light language. It's like the human me still doesn't understand it. Like, what do you mean that sound carries that energy? I can't see where it goes back to. So the human wants to understand everything, and that's the mind. Even though I think at a soul level I keep getting reminded of, it, you remember it, so trust in it. And it's been that journey of trust and that mastery of, this is not, you're human that's expressing, it's all of the soul mastery coming through.
mm,
And so what about people just looking at some, well, I'm going to say basic things, but looking at the elements in their chart. Like I spoke with another astrologer about, just looking at the signs. So, on first glance, I think I'm a grand fire trine, right? With the sun, the moon, and the rising. So, did you see a lot of fire in the chart? How is it balanced with the elements? If somebody were to take a more introductory look at their chart, what would
mm.
looking at the elements say, perhaps? What did you see in that?
Yeah, so obviously, yeah, you do have this fabulous Grand Trine within the fire element, and you do have, I think, six planets and points within the fire signs, which is the most dominant for you. So yeah, so I think obviously that just says a lot about the most dominant nature of your soul. You're very fiery, you're very passionate. But
Mm,
three of those, you've got your sun in Aries, you've got your Mercury in Aries, you've got your part of fortune in Aries as well. And they're
mm,
all in the ninth house, which is intercepted. So that usually means that there's a bit of a journey to like really coming into more of that fire energy. So I think with them being intercepted, it will probably allow you to be a more balanced soul. Obviously, you have less air than anything else. But it's interesting because, I mean, I'm going a little bit off topic if you don't mind, but with your sun in Aries, I actually see you having another incarnation in parallel to this one. Um,
Mm.
I see you in Aquila, in Altair, as part of this kind of like warrior woman tribe. It's very warrior feminine, and it's like Wonder Woman. It's like flying on eagles, and it's like, and I see you incarnated there at this time, but I feel as though there's gonna be a time at some point in this incarnation when the consciousness within that part of you that's there on a bit of a mission, but also learning stuff as well, is going to kind of come down here, because you'll probably go into stasis, or you'll transition, or whatever wants to happen there will happen. But I see that part of your consciousness coming into this one, which will bring more of that kind of warrior woman fire kind of energy at some point down the line. I
Mm.
don't know, just allow it to happen.
Yeah, well, I can feel the truth in that because interestingly, when I was doing just the brainstorming of Awakening Dragons, what is this about? And it was a bit beyond me. It's more collective stuff, right? Collaborations, podcasting, it's like the weaving of the energies together. And
Mhm.
the avatar that I had of, what I felt, not just my embodiment, but like who it was for, it was very cosmic warrior. Like cosmic warrior was exactly the name I was getting, which
Mhm.
is, what do we fight for? What do we stand for? What are we reclaiming in ourselves in the full power of whatever it is? So I can definitely relate to that warrior aspect. And I guess, again, maybe it's like all of those energies coming together, and human self can't discern, oh, that's the Andromedan aspect, that's the, whatever Taurian thing. It's like I can feel all of it, and it's like discerning and putting it into categories, which our human self likes to do. So all the things that you've been saying, it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And it's like wanting to understand how that even emerges, how that even is offered in a way that makes sense to people, right? Like all of that you shared, which I'm sure is just a slice of what looking at a chart can show. How do you package all of that into, yeah, I do one-on-one sessions. And so what exactly do you do? And it's like, well, it's like, how do you even package that into telling people what we do, what you do? You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because your North Node is in the 10th house in Gemini, and Gemini wants to kind of, especially in the 10th house, wants to have like a marketing pitch, wants to have a sales pitch. It's like, and they're very good at it as well. They're really great at all of that kind of stuff. But I think you just give people an experience, or you just give people an expression of who you are, and you just show up, and you allow
Yeah.
yourself, you, Sun, Aries, ninth house, you're a leader, you're a teacher, you're a divine warrior, cosmic Wonder Woman, here to, really bring some powerful stuff to a lot of people.
Mm.
And so it's just showing up as you, and like you are, putting yourself out there in the world, allowing yourself to be seen, allowing yourself to connect with different people. You're
Mm.
doing all the right things, you're doing everything that you're doing. And I think the thing with all of this is it all comes down to presence. Everything comes down to presence. And presence is that kind of synchronistic place where our whole being is in synchronicity with one another, and we found this just ability to just be, all these
Mm.
different kind of aspects of consciousness, just all being with one another. And from there
Yeah.
we're just showing up as us, and allowing people to just tune in with our energy. And for me, most, I don't have a YouTube channel, I don't do marketing so much. um uh, Most of my work has come through word of mouth. So that's just the way things have been. But it's interesting, I am being doing more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
where I am showing up on a bigger level and being visible so that people can just experience me. And if they feel like they're
Yes.
meant to kind of work with me, then they will. And I think that's with you, but it's different for everyone. And, perhaps you with the North Node in Gemini, which is all about moving into a powerful place of, knowing how to communicate yourself. So, mm, organically and as you and in the best way, and again with the 10th house, being able to market and or sales, these are all things that you're really moving into and exploring.
Mm.
So it's kind of finding for you, what does that look like for me? How do I want to connect? How do I want to market? There's a lot of conscious entrepreneurs who are just discovering this new territory for marketing, and what does it look like? And I think with the Pleiades, which again, it's just a strong part of who you are,
Yes.
they're very transparent. They're always able to just like talk in a very real way and in a very kind of open-hearted, vulnerable way.
Mm.
And for some reason, they seem to have just like a kind of protection over them where it doesn't cause anything negative to happen. I don't feel like I could probably get away with it the way that a lot of Pleiadian starseeds do, because I don't have it in my chart. So it's like I think you just like showing up as you, being transparent and allowing your heart to be seen, allowing your soul to be seen is probably one of the best ways of communicating, especially when it
Yes.
comes to your work. Um, yeah.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it really is our energy, our frequency. And I guess the more we understand how energy field actually works, and the more that I'm working on projecting my, unique signature through my Qigong work, and which all
Mhm.
light workers need to do, it's like know what your message is from a soul level, not in words, but understanding that we can pull more energy in from the universe to expand that out. And
Mhm.
I have definitely found it's, for me, it is about sharing me, and I found that interesting when I look at another map like human design. I don't know if you know human design, but I'm a 5-1. And the 5-1, the line 5 is a massive projection field. It's like being a huge mirror for everyone. It's going to trigger your shadows, and it will trigger your golden shadows as well, the things that you aspire and that you are, working on that mastery. And when I
Mhm.
understood that a bit more of like, okay, it's not me. I need to be me. I need to hold the mirror up. And in particular, because of my energy design is the 5-1, the one being the seeker of knowledge, always gaining, gaining, gaining. And then, as I've been told, and I feel it's about weaving all of that energy together. And I'm this massive mirror for everyone. And so you're going to see one part in the reflection that you need to see, and somebody else is going to see something different. And in that Andromedan way, that's why I feel I've struggled actually with putting things in a box of I help you do A and B. It's like, I don't know. It depends. It depends who's in front of me and what they need. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally, totally. It's interesting. You have in your sun, you have an opposition to the supergalactic center, which is a black hole outside of this galaxy. Um, Usually, when you have an opposition to a black hole in your sun, it means that people will project onto
Mm,
you a lot. People, it's like, um, unless you have, obviously for you, you've got this matching human design, where you've got this huge mirror, where you are this mirror, that kind of allows the projections to kind of go, no, this is you, look at you, it's but it's interesting kind of seeing the parallels between the two. And something that I love doing is finding how all of these different blueprints kind of work together and how they
yes.
map the wholeness. Because you look at the geocentric tropical galactic astrology chart, and even though I feel as though it's kind of really the kind of core central soul and journey, I still feel like there's, the draconic chart, which goes into like
Mm.
deeper parts of like the soul and the history and some kind of nuanced levels. You've got the gene keys, which explores your kind of DNA and your relationship with the
Yeah.
collective and your ancestors, and the heliocentric, which has got like a body. It's got an earth sign instead of a sun sign. So I see it as kind of exploring more of the body consciousness and again some of the ancestral themes. We've got all these different blueprints kind of showing us and guiding us and mapping out our whole, which sometimes we need a frame of reference to become conscious of who we
Yes.
are in order
That's right.
to become aware and self-actualize who we are so that we can be the embodiment of all of this. Obviously, it isn't just on a mental level. It's feeling
No.
to it all. It's kind of it's physicalizing it all. It's like one of the main I went to drama school. I was an actor and singer for 10 years, and one of my favorite things was animal studies, where we got to like explore the animals that we felt resonant with, and we got to embody them and we got to physicalize them. And it's the same with all of these different aspects of consciousness. It's like,
Yes.
oh, how do I embody? How do I hold myself? How do I feel in my body when I'm tuning in with this kind of Andromedan nature? And something that I feel is kind of in relation to a lot of this is in Pluto in Scorpio, you have an opposition. I mean, you've got lots of Andromeda in your chart, but you have an opposition to Mirak, which is the beta star within Andromeda. And
Mm.
um, the journey here with an opposition, there's a real journey into more of the expression that this star and this experience wants to give you. And it's very connected to feminine beauty. And it's in Andromeda we can shapeshift and we can create
Yes.
different realities and manifestations like that, and it can look different in a split second, because we're all powerful manifestors, which, by the way, I feel you're a very powerful manifestor. I feel like that's one of your biggest gifts, actually. But
Mhm.
with this, it's what I was seeing is that you would like shapeshift to look different and to look kind of in a way that you felt was more presentable or that was more beautiful. But it wasn't necessarily kind of connected to your soul and what your soul looks like. And so
Yeah.
something that I feel is like part of the journey for you is just like really loving yourself in the mirror and just like
Mm.
embracing the feminine beauty and embracing you and how your soul expresses itself through your physical body and what that looks like. And that's part of this physicality and this embodiment that is so important in this journey.
Yeah, well, I actually had updated my Instagram bio words and recently, and I think I wrote in it something about helping people to come to their radiance and walk the beauty way. And that's a
Mm,
poem from one of the Native American tribes in North America. Like it's shamanic. It refers to that path, but it's really seeing the beauty, the sacredness, and everything.
mm,
So I love that, and all that you're saying about using all of these maps as a way for us to become aware. We are on a journey of our consciousness, our self-awareness. It has to begin with that trait, that quality of, well, are we willing to be more aware? And that
mm,
awareness and increasing level of awareness, that is the awakening to more parts of us that we have been asleep to, right? So I love that. And it really is about people just using whatever map resonates. So if galactic astrology is the way in, I love it. Intuitive nature to it, like all of this information, like there's A mastery that you have to be able to piece different things together. The course and the certification and the books didn't tell you, well, in exactly this scenario and mix of star alignments, it's this outcome, right? Like, so there's something in you that you have to practice, this intuitive and higher wisdom that flows through, which is why I really love astrology in general. But even the other maps, like they all take a little bit of astrology or the I Ching, or, it's just all different ways for us to look at ourselves. So whatever resonates, with people, I think that's really the way to go. So I know we're like so totally over time because we can talk hours, I know, but I think there's two more things probably I want to ask. So you did mention one of the galactic centers and how it's a black hole. So I think, when people are going to go on the galactic astrology, you can run your free chart and you can easily see some of the star alignments. And even if people don't know what they are, they can just see some of the energies and start connecting with that. So when people see a lot of the galactic centers, and you mentioned one of them, the Shapley, like what does that generally say? Like when we have these black holes in our charts, like what does that generally say? I know it's a big topic, and I think Julia Balaz might have had another podcast or YouTube about it. So what's your perspective on these galactic alignments in our charts?
Um, yeah, by the way, you've got a lot. You've got so many. You've got, honestly, I was really amazed at how many you've got. Um, I would say that it's a person who has come into a really expanded amount of presence.
Mm,
It's like the source that their soul, the soul, their fragment has within its capacity is very, is very, very expanded. Depending, it just depends where these are aligning. Depends on the
mm,
meaning that they have. It depends if they're in conjunction, in opposition, trine, sextile, square, all of these things. But in general, I would say that it gives someone a relative amount of influence,
yeah.
and more of like a, more of an expanded level beyond this galaxy. If you've got the Shapley attractor conjuncting somewhere pretty powerful, Pluto is powerful. It might be the
Mm,
smallest, but it's the most powerful. And you've got conjunct Shapley attractor there. I would say that, your ability to influence the collective will, there'll be a lot of power. I think power is our light, is our energy. And
yes.
so you have a lot of it. You have a lot of energy. You're very expanded. So in general, that's what I would
Mm,
say about those. But obviously, depending on where they are in the chart, depending on what aspect, there's a whole
yeah.
world to explore there.
Yeah. And then again, it's just synchronistic or in alignment with what I'm already doing. And so in this Qigong modality that I've only recently kind of remembered and come back onto, it is absolutely about energy training. It's like literally helping other practitioners, healers, light workers. How do we bring more of that light literally in a physical embodiment way? You will feel the energy more in your field. And I think because when I started, doing this kind of work, in my perception of it, I felt like I kind of started somewhere outside the body, like it was astral or kind of tuning in, but I wasn't really here. And so I've spent the better half of the last 3 years coming into the body. And now with this phone, it's like, wow, like, I did, I don't know, like I told you, a little bit of exercise and training, and it's like, oh, I feel everything. And so when the soul is coming more into the body, and now I'm working on actually pulling even more of that energy, and allowing myself, giving myself permission, remembering that it's safe to be in the body. It's really powerful. And you said being a powerful manifester, and one of the things I say about qigong and learning to work with energy is, in order to manifest, your frequency and what you are tuned to has to be very strong. right? So we work on clearing whatever is there and making sure if you're really tuned to abundance, okay, so because that's the signal that's going to be amplified. So
Mhm.
if Josh's signal is about whatever it is, like being true to your heart, right? Like that has to be very much the intention. As you know, intention is everything. And then we learn to amplify it out. So I think that's very much in line with what you're saying is, there's a lot of energy and it's like, oh, well, I'm teaching people how to to have more energy. Amazing. You mentioned something about water in the chart. Is there anything you want to say about that before we, for this moment, conclude this topic?
Yeah, well, that's what's been coming through is, the Scorpio aspects. And you've got Venus in Pisces, you've got Lilith in Pisces, these strong kind of feminine positions in your chart are very watery. You also have Mars in Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio, Pluto in Scorpio. So you've got some more of the kind of the masculine aspects as well in the water sign. So it's like some of these divine, masculine, feminine archetypes within the chart are all kind of
Mm.
showing up as being very watery. And it's interesting
Mhm.
because as I tuned into it, by the way, the soul origin, as we kind of split from source, it can be expansive. So I could have one part of, what's allowed to come through at this point, but there could be something shown to you further in the future
Mm.
about, oh, it was off into this like galaxy a zillion miles from here. It's
Yep.
like, and it was this and it was different. But what I was shown and what wants to come online for you at the moment is you being this water angel and working with the water within the universe, and just bringing like really angelic, beautiful, divine, like source filled frequencies. I actually saw you in this kind of womb space, as kind of in the divine mother's womb space, in the kind of area of the Shapley attractor, which is like way, 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 way out. And I saw you working with the kind of the molecules of water within the atmosphere, and just like using your voice and singing. And again, you've got your third house here, which is about communication.
Mm.
So I could like see you using sound to like alchemize this water and to just like allow it to kind of go out into the universe. And I I just see you as this kind of really expansive water angel, kind of connected in with this quantum field within the divine mother's womb, just like bringing these beautiful frequencies of like bliss. And I think on a more physical level, it's like, how do I become this angel here in the physical? And I think
Mm.
there's a lot of water alchemy that wants to be done with your own water, with using water. As intentionally, it's kind of charging water with intention, drinking it, and allowing that to become part of your water, which is 70 to 90%. I'm not sure exactly what,
Yes.
but we've got a lot of water within the body. Again, working with the waters within the body, I just sometimes just tune in. Am I looking a bit stormy right now? Have I got a bit of sewage going on? What's my waters looking?
Mhm.
And just tuning into that whole field of the water within my body, um, and and then just kind of like with intention and alchemy, just bringing the frequencies that need to kind of bring it into these really peaceful, calm waters so that I can remain in this centered place. So that's, I'm
Yeah.
sure, many things that you're already doing, but
Well,
this
funny you
this
should say that. You're just a mirror to help me validate and confirm I'm on the right track synchronistically. So I have always followed the works of, Dr. Emoto and, all the things he does with water. But actually, quite recently, during Christmas holidays, actually, I was at a friend's house and we were, whatever, like staying in the bush. And I had bought these glass petri dishes because I was following another lady who works with water consciousness. And basically, I kept charging the water and then freezing it to see what the new sounds and the energy, how it was informing the water. So this is not new, right? The water and all the beautiful crystals that we can get, but I was particularly interested in exactly the sounds and how
Mm,
that energy was informing the water, which again is the water within us, because I
mm.
thought this is a very obvious and physical way to show people, okay, I'm going to show you what the water looks like before, and I'm going to show you what the water looks like after, because you can take a picture of it. So, in
So,
saying that, I know we've shared a lot. I was thinking, how would you like to receive a little bit of frequency and sound? I'd love to see what your guides and intuition reflect on what happens for you. Just a little short transmission, if you'd be open to that. And then we close the session for now, because as we said, we can probably talk forever about this, couldn't we?
yep.
All right. So, yeah, I'll just leave it open and we'll just see what comes through. And so, for you to allow your eyes to close, and for anyone listening, and we ask that spirit and my spiritual family and the path of light to guide all that comes through for everyone's greatest good, and whatever information and frequencies are available for your soul to receive. And just to be open, I'm just going to put my original sound on. Yasa. Yasareta kuriasha. Ontayasa oria. Sheyatiaka sonte. Oria. Sukia. Sorea. Tokia. Saria. Toheya sukia. Torean sukian torea sonkian tarian tori yansuki antaka karisa Mareya mansuki yate yataro mareki yansu hayata hareyaso ayasanyanta soryakashi. And just even if you're checking in with your guides on any messages that are directly and specifically for you, whenever you feel ready to allow your eyes to open. And how is
Beautiful.
that for you?
It was so beautiful. It's interesting because I felt it was a Pleiadian language, and it's from light, but I really felt the Pleiadian frequency coming through that, and it's interesting because my descendant is in Taurus, and I
Mm,
always feel like the most supportive, star frequencies for me.
yeah.
Are the Pleiadians and the Pleiadian frequencies, and they're the people who seem to just be able to really bring more wholeness into my life. Um,
Mm,
yeah, it's I I don't have much of the Taurian energy within my chart. I've got it in my Jupiter in Taurus. So, but yeah, it was just it felt like it was really bringing more wholeness into me, and I could feel it
mm,
activating things on a very DNA level. Because something that I don't want to go on and talk and talk and talk, but when I first connected to the stars and to starseed kind of consciousness, the Pleiadians were the ones who came forward and were the first ones that I connected to. And I love the frequency. And it was such a magical time in my life. And I know that some of my ancestors have been Pleiadian starseeds and have like seeded Pleiadian DNA into my body. And
Yes.
so I could feel it being activated by this light language that you were just transmitting. And it
Yes.
was just what I needed. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And, I've really come to, again, trust more and more in whatever it is. Because I
Mm,
think when I start, it's like I don't always know, like I don't say, okay, I'm going to bring through the Palladian energy. I
mhm,
find that when we work with synchronicity and really allowing spirit and the spiritual family to regulate and guide what comes through, people get what they need, and that's a real trust in things.
mhm. Love
So
that.
I know we need to do part 2, 3, and 4 of this chat, but I think come and see Josh for a reading. I feel like there's so much wisdom that you bring through and helping people to put pieces together.
Mm,
What you started this conversation with of me, reclaiming parts of self and really putting them together in this whole. I think that's what many of us facilitators, guides, mentors, coaches, healers, whatever we call ourselves, we're all light workers helping to lift, this consciousness of humanity collectively, person by person. And so, for our listeners, if you've enjoyed this chit chat and feel inclined to work with either of us, I really feel that astrology and all of these modalities are so powerful to help people. So I'm going to share with everyone your links, but Joshua, before I end, is there anything else you want to kind of end with or share as guidance to our listeners or anything?
Just keep looking after you.
Mm,
Just keep, I think a lot of something that was just coming through is like we're servants of source. That's what it feels like. And
yes,
we're serving source for so many. and
mm,
and we just naturally want to give. And it's so important to keep that in balance with really giving to ourselves in whatever way that,
totally.
yeah. So just keep loving you and keep giving to you. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And such a good reminder, especially for us who are in service. We keep giving and we need to make sure our cup is very full. So, in addition to being a quantum soul guidance practitioner, Josh is also a yoga teacher, Reiki master, and you also do spiritual response therapy as an advanced practitioner. So many modalities on however people feel called to work with you. I'm going to share all of Josh's links, and I love your website as well, Awaken and Ascend. Totally. So, may we all be on our journey of awakening and ascension on the path that is for our greatest good. And thank you so much, Josh, for all that you do and all that you be. And thank you so much for, reading for me and bringing this wisdom forward for my consciousness and also for the collective. So, with greatest gratitude.
Such a pleasure, such an honor. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
All right.